Fun fact. Actually, it's not funny. It's a sad fact. Did you know that Sudan holds the record of the highest number of military coups that have happened there in Africa? 20 of them, over 20 of them, with around 7 being successful. Sudan has never gotten to understand what is called civilian rule. They cannot relate. Like, how do you do it, guys, in Kenya? Ebu, show us your ways. How did you get, like, Ruto in power? You voted. Sudanese people can't relate. Our president, William Ruto, has been accused of having joint ties, business ties with Hemedi, who is one of the leaders in Sudan. And he has a militia group called the RSF, or Janjaweed. We're going to look further. Who is Hemedi? And what kind of a person is he? When Rigiji accuses the president of having business ties with such a man, who is this man? How dangerous is he? Kuna sanctions zake zimewekwa. He has a case in the ICC. The international organization and the UN are against him. What exactly did he do? Well, to understand Hemedi better, we need to first look at the history of Sudan. Sometimes we take for granted the things that we have, like freedom of speech, having working roads, working health system, and also maybe school. Hata kama tunapromisiwa chapati 1 million, but at least there's something working. Sudan is a perfect example of a failed state. By poverty, nothing is working in society. They have never known peace. Whatever they used to fight for over 20 years ago, chenye mababu wako walikuwa wanapigania, bado mnapigania hadi wa leo. It's sad. One movie that I've watched called Jack Ryan. Jack Ryan, Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan. Kama hujai watch, you need to go and watch that movie. There's a place where Jack Ryan and Pierce, they are being moved to Turkey by this guy called Tommy Hamed. And now, this guy is like a militia. So yeye ndiye anawavukisha to the other side. And as he's taking them on the other side, as he's taking them to the show where the lady that Jack Ryan are targeting to try and reach, Hamed tells Jack Ryan something interesting in the car because he's trying to like make a conversation, but Jack Ryan is tired and he doesn't want to talk about it. Unajuanga ile the way cab drivers can try to strike a conversation and you don't feel like it, maybe you are tired, it's not like you're trying to snob them or something. And then he tells him, you might judge me because I might be the bad person, you are the good person. But he says we are all born in this world and we are just, and geography at times determines our destiny. He tells Jack Ryan, maybe if I was born in the US, I would be the right guy. And if you were born here, wherever I am, in Yemen, I believe it was in Yemen, I can't remember the whole plot quite well. But he tells him, if you were born here in Yemen, maybe you would be the bad guy. That's the fate of geography.
You think you're the good guy, I'm the bad guy. Maybe you're right. But maybe, if I was born in a nice city in America, like Cincinnati, I could be the good guy too. Geography is destiny, my friend. The world is the kiln, we are the clay.
Geography sometimes can determine your destiny. Sudan, I wonder whether those children have dreams. They dream, when I grow up, I want to become a pilot, I want to become a doctor. Because these are things that they can't relate. So let's take a deep dive in Sudan's history. So Sudan was colonized by the British. These British were colonizing them, but as they were colonizing Sudan, Sudan was under the Egyptian Empire. So there was like a collaboration between Egypt and the British. So there was the Anglo-Egyptian rule, that was what was there. Until in 1958, not 1958, 1956, that's when they gained independence, if I'm not wrong. So they gained independence, but these guys have one guy who was called Abdallah Khalil. He was like the leader. But at the same time, they did not agree on who exactly to become the president. So they had like a board. Yani ikawa walikuwa na BOM fulani, BOM walikuwa na run Sudan kama shule. 5 guys and they could not agree on who. Remember, too many cooks spoil the broth. So 2 years down the line, there come someone called General Ibrahim Aboud. In 1958, he overthrows the government. General Ibrahim Aboud was a retired military officer, so he managed to overthrow the government. He ran the government until 1964. In 1964, civilians protested and they were against his rule, so he decided to step down. Una overthrow government, then you step down. Such a unique man, Ibrahim Aboud. So he decided to step down, and after stepping down, there was a short stint of civilian rule under a guy called Ismail al-Zahari. Al-Zahari. I'm not an Arabic, so forgive my pronunciation. So Ismail al-Zahari rules from 1964 to 1969, when some other guy called Gafal Nimeri comes. Gafal Nimeri is a military officer, overthrows the government, rules for 16 years until 1985, when another strong man comes. What's his name? Abdel al-Dahab. Abdel al-Dahab rules until 1989. But until 1989, his rule goes up to 1989. Why? Because the emperor, the conqueror, the lion is here. Who? Omar al-Bashir. In 1989, Omar al-Bashir overthrew the government, the military government that was there, and took power. Now, this man had noticed the pattern of Sudan, where people are being overthrown, presidents are being overthrown every now and then, and he realized, for me to secure power, I have to be more careful. And for you to be more careful, you have to keep your enemies closer. Who are the potential people that can overthrow him? Of course, the military. So he deploys a new tactic called coup-proofing. One of the things that he had to do was to ensure that these people are busy fighting. This is at a time when, after he took power in the 89, so he kind of 90s to 2000, until 2019 when he was overthrown. So al-Bashir is experiencing a lot of civilian fighting south of his country, the present-day South Sudan. There were forces led by the likes of John Garang, may he rest in peace, Salva Kiir, Riek Machar, SPLA, wanamupeleka mbio kama baiskeli ya kuiba.
Wakiamua ni mimi, nitakimbiza yeye kama baiskeli ya kuibiwa.
So, in around 2001, 2002, the SAF, Sudan Armed Forces, walikuwa on the south part of the country. What are they doing? They are trying to fight against the civilians who, at that time, were trying to fight for a space, who were trying to fight for political space, autonomy, So, the military is quite engaged. Then, some war comes up in the western part of the region. That's Darfur. In the western part of the country, that's Darfur. So, for us to understand how Sudan looks like, Darfur is the western part of the country, quite abandoned. There was not a lot of activity that was happening. At this time, Sudan is relying on oil exports, with around 75 of the mines in the present day South Sudan. So, SAF wanapigana huku against SPLM in the present day South Sudan, which was like now the south of Sudan at that time. Then in Darfur comes up a rebel group. They are threatening to topple the government, and these people who are there, who are coming from Darfur, they are fighting because they feel that they have been ignored. That part of the country has never been ignored. I actually forgot to tell you, by this time, we are talking about Sudan, which was like the third largest country in Africa. Quite vast. So they concentrated on developing the areas around Khartoum, Port Sudan, and also the fact that there was a lot of mining happening in South Sudan. Then there came parks. But now the western part had completely been isolated. So this western part has different tribes living in it. It's dominated by the Arabs, but there are also other subgroups who, if these minority groups come together, they become literally a majority. So at around 2001, when war breaks out in the Darfur area, and the rebel groups seem to be really taking a toll on the Sudan armed forces, Omar al-Bashir feels that he's being overpowered and anapigwa vibaya sana, so he needs backup immediately. But can he dare take his army out of South Sudan? No. Why? Ni lose against kina John Garang na kina Salva Kiir. Can never be me. So what does this man do? He's an Arab. He comes to learn of a militia group in Darfur that could help him. Who are these guys? These guys are called Janjaweed. Janjaweed is to literally mean devil on the horse's back. Devil's horseback. That's what they say. So these guys are an Arabian militia group. But the rebel group that was trying to overthrow Omar al-Bashir are from these other two sub-tribes, predominantly black, but they are also Muslim. So in that instant, he decides to hire Janjaweed to work together with the SAF to protect him, to ensure that they crush the rebel groups. However, what does Janjaweed and the Sudanese armed forces do? They crush the rebels, both the rebels and civilians. Kufagia, that Darfur was just a massacre. They displaced people, killed people. Rape was their currency. Actually, rape was like a form of punishment. You can try to imagine someone punishing you with rape. Our mothers, our daughters, some things are emotional. But these people are killing people, displacing them, and these guys saying that these people are either supporters of the rebel group or something like that. It's actually said that in around 2003, over 300 villages were moved. They were displaced. People lost lives to the tune of even over 400,000 at that time. So the rebel groups are crushed. People have been moved. Darfur is not Darfur anymore. And because of keeping the military close, and civilians can't do anything, especially against brutal force and the inhumanities that they faced. So they just have to surrender. So they surrender. And with the surrender, Omar al-Bashir is able to rule for quite a number of good years until 2011. 2011, South Sudan is now given its autonomy. It's a state on its own. It's been recognized. And they have a leader. So SAF has no business in South Sudan. Remember, they could not go to fight in Darfur a few years ago because the army was busy in South Sudan, ambapo they did quite a number of atrocities. So Janjaweed has helped Bashir continue clinging to power, together with the SAF. Who are the leaders of Janjaweed at that time? There was this guy called Musa Hilal, but then there was another gentleman who Omar al-Bashir trusted. Who is this man? Muhammad Hadman Dagalo, aka Hemedi. Hemedi was a trusted soldier to Omar al-Bashir. He felt that this was a man who has won my trust. And he actually felt that Hemedi's brutal and intense way of trying to crush the rebel groups and the civilians was so good that he actually called him Himayeti. Himayeti is an Arabic word to mean my protector. So he felt ni kama tu anatohoa, he felt like kimsanii, instead of calling you Hemedi, he can call you Himayeti. So that's how much Omar al-Bashir trusted Hemedi. So as a result of that, as a result of South Sudan gaining independence, the game has changed. Remember, I told you that 2/3 of the oil mines that Sudan was enjoying at that time are in South Sudan. So what does this mean economically? They don't have the oil they were mining, as much oil as they were mining before. So the financial muscle that Omar al-Bashir was making, was able to build with the minings that he was doing down there, sahi kisima imekatika. So money is flowing pole pole. Bashir has managed to harness his power, no threats, thanks to Janjaweed helping him together with the Sudanese armed forces. He decides, Janjaweed, mumekuwa watu wa maana sana, and because you people are very good and you have a very efficient leader in the name of Hemedi, aka Himayeti, my protector, I'm going to give you a role. You're going to be part of my military. You're going to be a military under the name RSF, Rapid Support Forces. What is your work? So, to support the SAF, Sudan Armed Forces. This came with some perks. RSF were given the chance to control some of the gold mines in the west part of Sudan, Darfur. These gold mines had actually been run by other guys. So, ni kama wewe si unajua kuna wale rebel groups wana run those mines over there? Yes, sir. So, you are a Hemedi. You've done a good job to me. Why don't you go and throw them away? You can take care of that business. It will give you some little money here and there. And that's how Hemedi got himself into the business of gold. So gold is being smuggled. Remember, gold, quite a precious commodity, valuable. So money starts flowing. The gold was actually more than Omar al-Bashir had ever thought. Omar al-Bashir had focused on mining of oil, mambo ya gam, Arabic, nini. He had not taken a keen look on the business of gold and the fact that Darfur had been abandoned for quite a lengthy time by the government. Then, what good can come out of Darfur? Kumbe gold imejaa huko. Hemedi acheleweshangi gichele. What does he do? He goes ahead to fukuza those people who are there mining gold, the rebel groups that are there mining gold, and now he's controlling them, and he has a military on his own. Literally a private military to protect gold. Ikimainiwa, it can be protected and moved elsewhere. Being the smart man he is, he creates connections all over the world with strong people, from China to Russia to UAE to Saudi Arabia. Guy is well connected. And apart from selling gold, what else is he doing? He is also hiring his military forces to wherever they are needed. So mko Chad, mnapigana, nyinyi ni rebel group and you need support. Hey, holla at your guy. I'm Hemedi, man. I gonna bring my guys. So kazi yake ni kutumana watu huko waende wakapigane. We are talking about soldiers. We are not talking about well-trained soldiers. Yes, there was intense training, but we are talking about boys between 14 to 17, 20 year olds at most. So they are being sent to Chad, Libya, and even Yemen. It said that UAE and Saudi Arabia fought against Yemen, actually using Hemedi's forces. It is alleged. Sio mimi nimesema, ni ma research tu zinasema hivyo. Sio mimi. Rumors. So Hemedi is able to build his financial muscle in a very short stint. He's now swimming in money. He's actually making a lot of money from the gold business, because Russia at this time are no longer members of the EU. And what is being seen as the crash of the ruble is threatening Russia's economy. So what does Putin do? He needs gold reserves. He needs gold to back up the ruble. Why buy gold when you can smuggle it anyway? Especially if you have connections with a man like Hemedi. So they organize with Hemedi. I'm going to give you military equipment in exchange for your gold. And that's how gold sneaks out of Sudan, the Darfur area, moja kwa moja hadi Russia. Apart from Russia, which other market are we looking at? Let us look at the UAE, United Arab Emirates. In the United Arab Emirates, there's one city that we love to visit the most. I mean, how can you say that you've traveled the world and you've not gone to Dubai? Sijaenda bado, but I look forward to going. Dubai, just like Nairobi, we say that Nairobi is the city under the sun. Dubai is nicknamed the city of gold. The gold business thrives there. Actually, people wanauziwa gold huko. There's a lot of gold business that happens in that Arabic world of Dubai, and it's booming. Apart from that, recreation facilities, it's a playground for the rich kids who enda huko ucheze huko kwa bahari, ulale huko kwa mchanga moto, the desert safaris, nini. But remember, they have a history of having the oil money. However, Dubai is one of the most active countries, Dubai is one of the most active cities when it comes to the gold business. There's no single gold mine in the United Arab Emirates. Where does that gold come from? Well, they import gold from different African countries, blah, blah, blah. But gold from Sudan is actually reaching the Dubai market through who? Hemedi. So guy has built connections very well. Na ikifika Dubai, it is sold, so money is there. But now this relationship that Hemedi has with these Dubai guys is not just about buying and selling gold. I mean, unajua kuna mahali business relationship inafika, be like, it's been pleasure doing business with you. You know, you can say it's been pleasure doing business with you times 1, been pleasure doing business with you times 2, times 3, then you start gaining that trust. You are a very efficient guy. You are a very good businessman, very legit. I think that's how they were talking with the Russians. So what can you do you for? So he's creating connections with Russians. He's also creating connections with people in the UAE. So the UAE are also alleged to have been helping Hemedi harm his forces. So wanam outsource weapons, in the like drones, nini, some really, really good equipment that would help him on the ground. Now, he's built his muscle. He has his own private army. He is controlling gold mines. While you're looking for gold, he has the mines. He's saying that mines are mine. See what I did there? As Hemedi is continuing to gain his financial muscles and is actually said to, at this point, at around 2016 to 2018, he actually built his financial muscle so greatly that he was among the richest men in Africa. Omar al-Bashir is noting that huyu jamaa ameanza kukua na power ingine. Hii vitu inampeleka vizuri because he didn't think that there was as much gold. He didn't think that the gold business was as viable as Hemedi had seen it. Remember, Hemedi is an Arab born and bred in Darfur. So he understands that part so well, which actually gave them an advantage when they were fighting the rebel groups. That's why they were so efficient at being brutal against the rebel groups and civilians as well, because wao wanaelewa geography ya huko Darfur vizuri, and the fact that it's neglected, then they have leverage. Try to imagine of Kenya and Kerio Valley and the bandits. You send new soldiers pale, but these bandits understand this place like the palm of their hands. They know each and every part of it, so they have an advantage, and which that fact really played a big role in ensuring that they crushed the rebels and civilians. So Omar al-Bashir has noted that Hemedi's power is really growing after making the RSF. And what does he do? He actually decides, now, you're not going to report to the intelligence anymore. You're actually going to report under me because, anyway, so you're my himayeti, you're my protector. Why are you reporting to the intelligence? Come report to me directly. But at the same time, Hemedi knows how to play the game. Nacheza kiyeye. Business bado inasonga, akona army yake that is protecting the gold mines. So everything is running on smoothly until 2018. What happens in 2018? Civil protests arise in Sudan. So wananchi wamechoka. As they're getting tired and moving out of the streets, what are the motive issues? What are the motivators? One, 70% of the government's budget was allocated to the military. 70% military. Who are in the military? SAF and RSF. RSF under Hemedi and the SAF, the armed forces. The budget was so bad that actually 5% walikuwa wametenga. Omar al-Bashir alikuwa ametenga 5% for health, education, and other basic social services. So people, of course, when people are pushed to the edge and they don't have anything to lose, they moved out of the streets. So unlike our series of protests that we did sometime last year, this protest actually lasted months. People died, but hawasiki. So SAF is under the leadership of al-burhan, the current president. So Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, who was actually part of the Darfur killing, walikuwa wanasaidiana na Hemedi akiwa na Janjaweed, na yeye akiwa Sudanese Armed Forces. He was the colonel there. So al-Burhan, in 2019, he's the leader of the Sudan Armed Forces. So wakaangaliana hivi wakiwa na Hemedi, wakauliza, how is this Bashir guy helping us? I mean, the protests have lasted months and these people don't seem to relent. This guy cannot protect us, he cannot lead us anymore. Anyway, it's been 30 years. It's time to wind up the clock. Who stays in power for that long? Anataka kukufia hapa? No. Let's just agree that it's time for him to leave. So what happens? On April 11, 2019, Bashir is put under house arrest and is overthrown. Makofi kwa civilians. You've been able to overthrow a tyrant and freedom is here. Well, not so soon, because we are in power. Al-Burhan and Hemedi. So Burhan is the leader, Hemedi the vice. Civilians feel good and they feel, yes, now we can start we can turn on a new leaf, start afresh. and hopefully something good will happen. However, they are still against these military leaders because, for one, they know them kutoka 04 Darfur. Wakikumbuka ile kitu ambao waliwafanyia, jameni, wanasema these people can never be and cannot be our leaders. So they are out in the streets again protesting, saying hii leadership yenyu hatuitaki, we want a democracy, we want civil leadership. But some people, you don't test their patience. On June 3rd, 2019, the RSF killed over 100 protesters who had come out to protest against the military.
Serikali tafadhali, niko saidi mbaya kabisa.
Government. The international community, of course, has to come, wakaingilia kati. The USA, the UK, the African Union, United Arab Emirates, also Saudi Arabia was in the mix. They say, no guys, we cannot work like this. Let's find a way, something on how we can work about. And around 2020, they come and put an agreement, a power sharing agreement deal, where we are going to have a transitional government with the RSF, SAF, and the protesters forming a transitional council. The military would rule the country for 21 months, while the protesters take the civilians, let me not call them protesters, but civilian rule for 18 months, looking forward to a general election. Kumbuka ini transitional council. So they sign a deal, and we get a new someone to represent the protesters or the civil group, and he's a prime minister. What's the name of this prime minister? Anaitwa Abdallah Hamdok. Abdallah Hamdok comes in as the part of the civil leadership. So he's given all the instruments and all the powers to run the country as the prime minister. That does not last long. A technical coup is staged in 2021 because Hemedi and al-burhan wameangalia hivi wakaona no. Sisi tutoke kwa, if we are not controlling the government, then we are not making any sense. If we are not able to be in the streets, then what are we doing? And you know, for some people, they feel that they were meant for street. They were meant for street more than your ex. So they feel they were meant for the streets and they cannot allow sasa tunaruliwa na raia. So they staged a coup in October 2021. So this prime minister, Abdallah Hamdok, akona ofisi, but he has an office without a portfolio. So he ended up actually resigning in January 2022. So Abdallah Hamdok ameoverthrowiwa. He's actually resigned for he's rendered a resignation letter. Was it willing? Kunako katabia kawa watu kufosiwa kuresign. Nimeisikia pia Kenya. Where was that tactic borrowed from? I'm overthinking. Anyway, the military is ruling again. So remember, there was that agreement that the military will rule for 21 months while protesters rule for 18 months. Now, neighbors have to come and help on this crisis. Who are these neighbors who are really trying to ensure that there's another deal that is put in place? The USA, UK, Saudi Arabia, UAE. Ensure that there's another deal. And on December 5th, 2022, there's a deal, and Sudan is pregnant with expectation, hoping that now this one deal is the one shot that will end this war, poverty, and all the troubles that come with these wars. So what was the deal? The deal said that there would be a transitional government. Remember, this deal was signed on December 5th, 2022. So what are the agreements? We have a transitional government by April 2023, led by civilians. So in the next 3 months, we should have a transitional government. Also, RSF, Rapid Support Forces, was to become part of the Sudanese armed forces. So with a new deal in place where the military to work with the civilians to form a transitional government within the next 3 months by April 2023. And this transitional government now is now to be headed by the civilians, because remember the international community, wakiambiwa on the previous time, the citizens were saying that no, we do not want the military in government, but somehow they negotiated, wakasema military ishikilie for 21 months, nyinyi mfanye 18 months. Why would fully fledged democracies advocate for that? Because it means that kuna mtu ana gain when this Sudan country is under military rule. Well, come 2022 December, this deal that they are saying that now this time civilians will be leading the government. However, there is one part of the deal where Burhan had said that RSF is actually supposed to be absorbed by the SAF, because which country can have two militaries anyway? You cannot have two parallel jeshis. So Burhan wanted that done in the next 2 years. However, Hemedi had other ideas. He wanted it to take 10, because if I don't have a military, then I don't have my business. I don't have protection, then Burhan can take me out at any time. So that was a deal breaker. And with that being a deal breaker, then they could not work together anymore. Remember, they worked together in Darfur 2004. They worked together to keep Bashir in power. They worked together to kick Bashir out of power. They've worked together to keep power. During this transition period, they've crushed civilians, and now it's between the two of them. So whoever kills the other first, whoever blinks first, then the other one has power. So Hemedi says no to this deal, because if I say yes to this deal, then that means that I'm forfeiting my business deals, I'm forfeiting my private army, my connections, and he felt, anyway, I'm actually more statesman-like than al-burhan. For me, hata sitaki mambo mingi, I will just build a civilian state, because that was what he was talking with the other presidents, saying that, oh, I don't want an Islamic state, we can have a nation that is not actually under Islam rule, and we coexist with other people. But mtu anasema hivyo, tunajua zile vitu amefanya. And so, from 2023, it's been fighting. The RSF control the western part of the country, the Darfur. They are still continuing to mine. Their mining business is doing them quite good, because they are moving gold to UAE. So when Gachagua was saying that there is gold being smuggled from Sudan, then to Kenya, then to UAE, and implicating the president on such business, we now understand where the gold is coming from. Gold is used in financial, as a back to finances, the financial system. And apart from that, even the other side of finance, apart from the legal financial system, your banking, where money is backed by gold, there's also this other part of money laundering. Gold is used a lot in money laundering because of its value. Can be used in any way. But now let us focus on this gold that is in the UAE. This gold in the UAE is coming together with equipment. And those equipment are coming to support the RSF. The UAE has denied those claims and said that there are no such allegations. But, I mean, it says, your guess is good as mine. It looks like a rat, smells like a rat, definitely a rat. So, these guys, Hemedi has the financial muscle. He's able to arm his people with sophisticated weapons. On the other hand, the Sudanese armed forces have the advantage of having the Air Force, so they are able to do airstrikes, and they are also getting quite a number of they are getting weapons from Russia, Bulgaria. I think Bulgaria was mentioned as to one of the places where weapons were manufactured, but they landed in the hands of RSF. So Hemedi akona the financial muscles. He's able to arm his people very well for ground, very efficient. Terrorizing civilians, very efficient, and using civilians as shields. So these guys lock out humanitarian help. The UN wants to come and bring in aid, but they can't because wameambiwa msijaribu kuingia huko. Sudan Armed Forces wanasema hapana. Any RSF controlled place, don't go there. We'll deal with you. We'll just assume wale watu wako huko are supporting RSF. RSF pia na wao hawataki any aid iingie isaidie wale watu wako ndani. What is the effect? People are dying of hunger, starvation, and so many other problems. So SAF is controlling the northern part, eastern and southern part of the country. Although there are quite a number of chunks of places yenye haiko under control because ni desert, there's nothing of value to protect. But there's this area called Khartoum. Khartoum is the capital of Sudan. So Khartoum was actually captured by the RSF. And after it was captured by the RSF, al-burhan and his troops had to retaliate and move the operations to Port Sudan. So the fight has been going on, and actually this year there have been reports where RSF actually bombed an oil, the oil reserves of the country in Port Sudan. SAF have retaliated with quite a number of airstrikes, and the worst problem is that when these two guys are fighting, they don't consider ati kunaweza kuwa na civilians nini. Drone inatupwa tu and it just lands in a village, lands in a kid, or literally every Sudanese family, every family in Sudan can say that I've lost a person or two due to this war. People can count the people they know. It's order of the day, people being killed by bullets, drones. Inakuja inalipukia kwenyu, inalipukia kwa kitchen. So sad. Do these people have medicine? Do they have the basic facilities? Nothing is working. Khartoum is a shell of itself. It's just a shell of its former self when it was a really, really well-built city a while ago. Right now, abandoned. People who had the money, who had the finances, actually were able to flee out of the country. Kama uko na pesa, you are able to move out of the country, go to exile. Well, kama unakuanga umesota 24/7, then your fate would have it that you would be caught up there by either the RSF and they kill you. Recently, SAF said that they have gained control of Khartoum, but it's a game of back and forth. Who you win, I win. And we don't know when it will ever come to an end. What seemed as a successful civil protest in 2019 that led to the overthrow of Bashir has now changed to Sudan's worst nightmare. They thought that they are now going to finally have peace. Bashir is gone, but worse has come. Some worse people, more ruthless, are fighting. How long will it take till they come to an agreement? We don't know. But it's now definite. Whoever takes the other out first, then they can have the whole of Sudan. We pray for Sudan. We hope something happens. We hope the international community does not continue keeping quiet. And those who are actually thriving from the war in Sudan, because there are people who are thriving, their business are booming, gold is being sold, and that gold is being used to fund war and fund problems in Sudan. We really hope that something can be done, and Kenya will have at least play a mediator role. I actually wonder, yes, Ruto might be supporting Hemedi ni mtu mbaya, but is Burhan an option? Should we choose sides? And what happens with this war? What if it comes and pours down to us? Because things change in an instant. Sudan is continuing to suffer. Civilians ndio wameumia kabisa. People have moved out of their countries to different countries. They no longer have somewhere to call home. People have been killed to the tune of well over, if you count like over the last 20 years with this issue, of 1 million wamekuwa killed. Graves, mass graves in what used to be football grounds. In the desert, actually, when the wind is strong, inafukua the skulls of those people who were killed and buried huko over this period of time. RSF still having tight control of the Darfur area. And they are actually trying to do something called tribal cleansing. Tribal cleansing. Tribal cleansing, hiyo kitu, does it ring something in your head back to 2007, 2008? There was a claim of Magugu, you remember? No, most Gen Zs, you didn't hear that, but there was a lot of Magugu yatatolewa and such talks. And show me your friend, and I'll always tell you your character. So, Nana Arabians wamesumbuka sana in Darfur because of the RSF. They are trying to cleanse, killing every male who is from these other tribes. So there's this city called al-bashir. Al-bashir was one of the cities in Darfur where at least SAF walikuwa wako huko. So with the Sudan armed forces there, people used to run there for safety. But now it seems that RSF has been able to capture that. They are controlling the roads, any border points, so no entry of humanitarian aid, and they are using that as a leverage. And they know that al-bashir is a significant city for them to keep controlling, the western part of the country, or Darfur. But for how long will this last? We just have to keep watching. We don't know when it will last. But Kenya, what is our role? Janjaweed formed a parallel government at our KICC, at our own grounds, Nairobi, Kenya. Not in an hotel, at KICC. They formed a parallel government. And the Sudan government termed Kenya as a hostile nation and actually withdrew their ambassador from Kenya, cut all imports from Kenya. On May 3rd, in Nyala Airport is in Darfur, the Sudanese armed forces took down a Boeing 727 plane that is said to have been carrying military equipment aimed to help the RSF. In that plane, there were at least 4 Dubai nationals, United Arab Emirates nationals, and 1 Kenyan pilot by the name of George Nyamodi from Alego in Siaya. George lost his life in Sudan. I don't know what business he had in Sudan. We cannot tell. However, he lost his life in something that could have been avoided in what I would term as a leadership issue. Kuingililia mambo ya kuhusu, or having business interests where you are not supposed to necessarily have. The fight continues, but there seems to be people who are gaining from it. The gold that is being sold in Dubai, ikifika huko, it can be transformed to either pellets or any ornament, and it's sold. So business is booming. Russians are also able to ensure that the sanctions that the European Union put them against when they started the Russia versus Ukraine war do not have a major effect on them because they have the gold from Sudan backing them up. Fahari wawili wanapopigana nyasi ndio inaumia. And Sudanese people wameumia. They are starving, they are dying of hunger. People are losing their... They actually don't have a working state. Nothing is working. But there are people benefiting from this status quo. Until when will this happen? In as much as we want someone to go, we are saying one term must go. We must always be aware, if he goes, who comes? That question has been asked, and we are saying we might look at other options. But what other options are you looking at? Especially if people have an history of doing things the wrong way, then they'll crush you further. I can't remember the exact text, but there's a Bible where a king died in Israel, and after he died, then his son took over, and he was told, oh, your father was very bad, please do not rule like your father. He said, oh, babangu alikuwa mbaya, then you've not met me. So, or al-Bashir was bad. Hey, meet al-burhan and Hemedi. These people are controlling, each one of them ni kama ni nusu mkate. You are controlling this side, this other one is controlling this side. It's always a back and forth. And we never know for how long it will take. Let's be careful we don't go the Sudan route, because sometimes our fate is determined by our geography. Geography is destiny.